to we are in love together. Now consider love as a huge hot tub. It's a very personal image for me. Okay. Let us get into the hot tub together. We are meeting in the space of love. When two people meet in the space of love and break the attachment of mind to seeing the other person as the vehicle to get you there, but realize that it's in you and you start through your spiritual practices to rest in it, suddenly the need and desperation start to dissolve. And all of the negative things that go with addiction start to disappear. The possessiveness, the jealousy, the anger, the fear that the other person is going to die. Because the quality of love as a state has no time, it has no space, it wasn't born and it doesn't die. In the work I do with people as they are dying, I am often dealing with people who have lost someone who has died, and they are grieving. What they are grieving for, put in these terms, is their connection to the place in themselves where they feel safe in the universe and at home and at love and at peace. And they have so identified it with the other person, with an external thing, that they are absolutely destitute and feel like they have lost the juice of life. It really is like a meditator who can't meditate. It's the same addiction. You get so busy you can't stop in the morning to sit. And you start to feel like you've lost your beloved. You've lost that place of your being. And what I encourage people to do is to stay just with what they are feeling, with their grief. And I always tell people, how long have you grieved? And they'll say, oh, a year. I'll say, oh, go grieve some more. See, the culture says, well, it's good you're over it now. Now you can start living life again. But grieving has to run its course. Those are very, very deep attachments. And you go up and you go down and you think, I've broken out, and then the next moment you're crashed into depression, and on it goes, up and down and up and down. And as you and I get older, more and more of our friends and loved ones die, or people die now because of epidemic and so on, and we all have to deal with this loss. And we lose friends, and because of our mobility, people are moving away from each other. And we have, in some way, closed our hearts out of avoiding the pain of losing love. And then we go around armored. So you touch them. The two of you created this third thing you do not know, and you both rested in it. So you both tasted being one in love. But then what you're missing is the other person. It's like in a triangle. You're missing one of the bases, and you can't get to the center because you only got there through the relationship between the two of you getting to the top. But one moment after you have grieved and gone up and down and told how you're done with it and then crashed and all of that melodrama, there'll come a moment where you might be watching a sunset or sitting quietly, and you will suddenly taste the fact that the love that you had with that person is still there. And at that moment, you will start to make the break between the vehicle for coming into the love and the essence, or the method and the essence. And then you will realize that what truly connected you to that person at the deepest level was that quality of identity in the quality of love. Ramana Maharshi, when he was dying of cancer, and his devotees were crying. They loved him so much, and they kept crying, "Don't leave us, oh Bhagwan, don't leave us." And he said, "Don't be silly. Where could I go? Where could I go?" So seeing those levels of love and the nature of relationship, we see that relationship goes from a path in which there is incredible need because we are hungry ghosts in need of love. And as the path works and we start to come into love, we start to rest in it, and then relationship becomes a celebration. It no longer is needful. It's the play of form. It's the play of form. It's a whole different ballgame. Is that coming through? Can you hear that issue? So in the sense of devotional yoga, the statement God is love means that you move through love into love. The interesting thing about the quality of the heart as opposed to the quality of the mind, and this is a polarity that is just a metaphor to play with. The quality of the mind is that it discriminates this from that. It thinks about things. It has objects. The quality of the heart is it keeps being boundless. It keeps embracing everything into itself. It doesn't discriminate even itself from other. It just embraces. That quality of compassion is where you're one with everything. It arises out of that feeling. But our hearts are very frightening to us because we were developed as separate beings. And we got so addicted to our separateness that we get frightened of the way in which the heart keeps giving it away. We feel we need our separateness so the heart becomes our enemy. I want to talk just a little bit about some of the difficulties of the path of relationship, of which poetry books are full. As a path, what I experienced was that I loved one being intensely. What opened me to the love of that being was that that being loved me. And loved me so unconditionally that I felt safe to love in return. Now, we talk a lot about unconditional love. But let me tell you, very rarely have you ever experienced it. Because to unconditionally love another person, it means without condition. Most of us say, "Oh, I love you without condition." Well, then do you mind if I cut your throat? Well, I'd rather you wouldn't. Aha! I knew you'd set up boundaries. I knew you didn't really love me. Okay? And it would have to be a being who was so non-attached to their own life and death that their love wouldn't flicker no matter what you did. That great story about the time when a country was being overrun, a Buddhist country, and the armies of the overcoming country, we had a recent example in China and Tibet, but this was before that, long before, and when they were finding the monks, they were disemboweling them and doing terrible things to the monks, which they just recently did, the Chinese did in Tibet. And in this one village, there was an officer of the army who was very feared because he was particularly cruel. And he had arrived in this village, and he asked his adjutant, "How are the people responding?" And the adjutant said, "They are all bowing down to you, and at the monastery, all the monks have fled to the mountains except for one monk. And the officer was infuriated at the